8:47 a.m. A Coast Guard helicopter screams across the Caribbean at 140 knots, hunting a cartel speedboat that's about to become permanent ocean debris. The smugglers think they're fast. They're wrong. 9 minutes from now, a single subject no 50 caliber round will end this chase in the most violent way federal law allows. And if you're not subscribed, you're missing content like this. Hit that button now. The pilot's helmet display shows everything. Range, 12 nautical miles. Closure rate, 185 knots. Intercept authorized. Below, twin Yamaha 350s burn white hot through thermal imaging, completely unaware that 3 Coast Guard assets have already boxed them in. The $240,000 floating mistake. The speedboat cutting through Caribbean swells cost the cartel exactly $180,000 to build. Custom fiberglass hull, reinforced transom, GPS scramblers, radar absorbent paint, the works. Twin Yamaha 350 outboards added another $60,000, total investment $240,000 before the first kilo ever touched the deck. Cartels treat these boats like rental cars, expecting 65% to get seized or destroyed. The return on investment comes from the 35% that make it through. Each successful run clears $3 to $5 million in product delivery fees. This particular boat had completed 8 runs over 5 months, moving 2,400 kilograms total. The profit margin had already paid for the boat 14 times over. But here's what the smugglers didn't factor into their spreadsheet. The Coast Guard's new pattern recognition algorithm that analyzes ocean traffic and flags anomalies with 94% accuracy. And this boat just lit up every single warning indicator simultaneously. The rifle that stops boats. The Barrett M107A1 wasn't designed for maritime interdiction. It was built to punch through concrete walls and disable vehicle engines from a mile away. But Coast Guard flight mechanics discovered something beautiful. A 50 caliber round hitting an outboard motor at 2,800 feet per second doesn't just damage it, it catastrophically disassembles it. The 661 grain projectile carries 13,240 foot-pounds of energy. That translates to the kinetic force of a Ford F-150 hitting a brick wall at 70 millimeters, except concentrated into a half-inch diameter point. Each round costs the government $3.50. The Yamaha 350 it's about to destroy costs $30,000. Return on investment, 857,000%. What makes this particular intercept unusual is the mechanic chambered only 1 round, which means he's either supremely confident or the helicopter's running low on ammunition weight allowance. Either way, the math is about to become violently simple, when physics meets poor decisions. The go-fast boat hits 62 knots. That's 71 mph across open ocean, riding on twin 350 horsepower engines, burning fuel at 28 gallons per hour combined. At this speed, the hull is planing, meaning only about 12% of the boat actually touches water. The rest is airborne, skipping across the wave tops like a stone. The smugglers think this makes them untouchable. The math disagrees violently. The Coast Guard Dolphin helicopter cruises at 140 knots, more than twice as fast, while burning 115 gallons per hour of JP5 jet fuel. The smugglers have maybe 80 minutes of fuel left at current consumption. The Coast Guard assets have 9 hours before anyone needs refueling. But the real problem isn't the speed differential. It's what happens the instant that rifle shot connects with the port engine. The anatomy of instant stop. A Yamaha 350 outboard, spinning at 7,000 RPM, is a controlled explosion happening 117 times per second. The crankshaft rotates so fast, it's actually stretching from centrifugal force, held together by metallurgy and tolerance engineering measured in thousandths of an inch. When a 50 caliber round traveling at 2,600 feet per second impacts the engine cowling, it doesn't politely ask permission to enter. The aluminum housing provides roughly the same resistance as aluminum foil against a sledgehammer. The round punches through, tumbling as it goes, creating a wound channel 4 inches wide. It strikes the crankshaft mid-rotation, transferring 13,240 foot-pounds of energy in 0.03 seconds. The crankshaft doesn't bend. It shatters into 19 pieces that ricochet through the engine block like shrapnel grenades. Connecting rods snap, pistons seize. The entire powerhead transforms from precision machinery into abstract sculpture in less time than it takes to blink. The physics textbook calls this asymmetric thrust vectoring. The smugglers experience it as, "Why are we spinning?" With the port engine destroyed and the starboard engine still screaming at full throttle, the boat enters a violent right-hand turn at 62 knots. Centrifugal force throws the crew against the gunwales. Bales of cocaine shift and tumble. Within 4 seconds, the boat completes a full 360-degree spin, bleeding speed with every rotation until physics runs out of patience and the hull slams sideways into its own wake. The chase is over. Total time from rifle shot to complete stop, 11 seconds? The smugglers are now floating, disoriented, surrounded by Coast Guard assets, and about to receive a very detailed explanation of federal maritime law. The $41 million inventory problem. Stacked in the hull, 52 bales, each vacuum sealed in layers of fiberglass resin, tarp, and duct tape. Each bale weighs exactly 25 kilograms, 55 pounds, of cocaine hydrochloride testing at 89% purity. Street value calculations are complicated because they depend on distance from source. In Colombia, wholesale price per kilo, $1,800. In Miami, after successful delivery, $27,000 per kilo. In New York, after distribution and network markup, $34,000. The 1,300 kilograms in this boat represent $2.34 million in cartel wholesale loss, but $44 million in potential U.S. street value if it had reached final distribution. The Coast Guard spent approximately $18,500 conducting this intercept: fuel, ammunition, crew hours, equipment depreciation. Return on investment. Preventing $44 million in street drugs cost $18,500, which works out to 2,378% efficiency. But here's the number that keeps cartel accountants awake at night. This boat's cargo represented 4 months of production output from 3 processing labs in the Putumayo region. And now, someone has to explain to a cartel financial officer why 4 months of product just became federal evidence tagged and cataloged in a Miami evidence warehouse. What happens after the catch? The 4 suspects are now facing mandatory minimum sentences under 21 U.S.C. Power of 960, importation of controlled substances, which starts at 10 years for amounts over 5 kilograms. This boat carried 1,300 kilograms, putting them squarely in the aggravated trafficking category. 20 years to life, no parole in the federal system. The boat itself gets seized under maritime admiralty law and typically sold at government auction, proceeds going to the Justice Department's Asset Forfeiture Fund. Conviction rate for maritime drug interdictions, when suspects are caught red-handed with product, 97.8%. The average federal sentence for this quantity, 194 months. That's 16.2 years of actual time served, not including whatever the cartel does to their families back home for losing 2 par into $34 million in product. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard helicopter returns to base. The mechanic cleans the Barrett, logs the single expended round, and operations resume. By the time the suspects reach federal detention in Miami, 4 more go-fast boats have already been flagged by the tracking algorithm, and the entire cycle begins again. The Coast Guard conducted 312 of these interdictions last year, seizing 547,000 pounds of cocaine total, which sounds impressive until you realize intelligence estimates suggest that represents only 12 to 16% of total trafficking volume. Meaning, for every boat they catch, 6 to 7 others are completing successful runs right now, somewhere between Colombia and the Florida coast. But the math keeps working in America's favor. Each interdiction costs an average of $19,000 in direct operational expenses. Each seizure prevents an average of $38 million in street-level distribution. The return on investment is so absurdly lopsided that the Coast Guard's annual drug interdiction budget pays for itself 17 times over in prevented social costs, healthcare, law enforcement, incarceration. The smugglers keep building faster boats. The Coast Guard keeps deploying better sensors. And physics keeps teaching the same lesson at 2,800 feet per second. From first radar contact to suspects in federal custody, 52 minutes total. $18,500 in operational costs, $44 million in drugs that never reached American streets. One $3.50 rifle round that earned a 1,257,000% return on investment. If this breakdown of how maritime interdiction actually works was worth your time, smash that subscribe button because we're covering more operations most people never hear about. The Coast Guard's message to smugglers keeps arriving at 140 knots, backed by 50 caliber punctuation marks that end arguments in milliseconds. The math is simple. They run, we catch. Physics doesn't negotiate.